we're talking about how to support someone that you know that might be in an abusive relationship. So first and foremost, it's important to remember that abusive relationships are very complex. For the reasons that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, there are often a million reasons to stay, right? There's also a million reasons to leave, but there's this balance that the victim has to take into consideration, right? And it may not always be the safest option for them to leave the relationship. So you have to remember that, and remember not to push them to do that. So statistics show that people who are in an abusive relationship try to leave 7 times before they can actually get out of the relationship. So again, we've got a million different reasons for that we talked about earlier. But what can you do as someone who is supporting a person that you think might be in an abusive relationship? So first, we want to be very gentle with this person, right? Kind of like any situation where you might think that you need to help someone out, but that person is their own person, has their own beliefs and their own ideas. So first, maybe point out gently that you're concerned with their safety and keep any judgment out of it, because that's the first little seed, right? That there's something wrong here. Sometimes a victim is not aware that they're being abused, and so the seed needs to be planted that there's something wrong with this relationship, that it's not healthy. But it needs to be planted in a gentle way so that they don't get defensive and they don't feel the need to defend their abusive partner. And importantly, a lot of victims will talk about their abuse. They may not talk about it in depth. They may very surface level discuss it, but often they're met with disbelief. So it's very important that if you're going to support an abusive a person in an abusive relationship to get out of that relationship, that you believe what they say to you, because that is a fear of victims, that they won't be believed or that no one will help. So be sure to believe them and remind them that it's not their fault, because remember, their abuser is constantly telling them that it is their fault, and so they need another voice to help bolster for them and validate that it actually is not their fault. It is the abuser's problem. In the long run, victims have to make their own decision to leave their abusers. So what you're really doing is just helping them cycle through that decision-making process to get to where they need to be to make the best decision for their family. And keep in mind, what you think is best for their family may not be what they think is best for their family. So you have to be patient and gentle and kind. So first, start by asking questions. Ask questions like, would you consider going to a counselor? Would you be comfortable filing a police report? Ask them questions to get them to think through and process on their own so that they can come to the conclusions on their own. You can ask, what can I do to help, right? Can I help you find resources? And keep in mind when you're communicating with a victim that an abusive partner often will monitor text messages, phone messages, emails, any type of communication that the victim has with the outside world. So be very careful when using that communication. Be sure to always ask if it's a good time to talk, because if the abuser knows that you're against them, they're going to first try to isolate the victim from you and end that relationship. And then they're also going to possibly target you. And you don't want to target on your chest while you're trying to help this victim out of the situation. So just keep in mind, any communication that you do, the abuser likely will see or have access to. So make sure that you're very careful using your communication with the victim. So one thing that's important for victims is to remember that they're not alone. So you need to tell them that. Tell them that they're not alone and that you can help them to find resources. And then educate yourself on what resources are available to victims so that you can help your victim whenever they're ready move forward and find the help they need. And just start with baby steps. Maybe start with counseling, start with making a safety plan. We talked last week about how victims in abusive relationships really need to have that plan in place to make sure that they're safe, because statistics show that when a victim leaves an abuser, that's actually the time that they're at the highest risk to be killed by the abuser. So you could do that. You could help them work through a safety plan for if an incident occurs, for if they leave the relationship, if they left the relationship, for how to keep their family safe now. So just take baby steps and help them process the situation and be patient with them and plant the seeds, and eventually they'll figure out what's best for them and their family and what's safest for them and their family. And that's not always easy for us, the people who support the victims, to handle, right? We want them out and we want them safe, but they know that abuser really well, and they know what they're capable of usually, even if they don't consciously know it. And so if there's a reason that they're worried or that they're scared, that may be physical, just keep that in mind, that it may not be the safest option for them to leave the relationship at that time. So just help them work through, find resources, and support them like you would support another person in making the decision. So I hope that this month has been eye-opening for you and that you've gotten some more awareness about domestic violence. And always keep in mind some great resources are the National Domestic Violence Hotline, or Palomar's Oklahoma Family Justice Center in downtown Oklahoma City. And of course, if you know someone or you are in an abusive relationship yourself, start putting those seeds in to find the resources you need to get help and hopefully in the long run get out. So thank you again. This is Sarah Stewart with Solid Serenity Legal Solutions, and I will see you soon. Thanks.